Nicole?
We are live.
We are live on the internet. The best part about the last live stream is somebody asked me what was up with the video quality. I said, internet in the country. You get what you get. This is not fiber. Okay. Our next speaker is me, so I'm not really going to introduce myself. I do assume you know who I am if you are here. I am Nicole Sauce, Nicole Awesome Sauce, according to Jack Spirko. And how many of you have seen my underground networking presentation one time? How many have seen it two times? Why are you still here? It's a new presentation every time. So for those of you who have seen this before, we're going to talk about underground networking because this concept to me has become really important as the world has been doing what the world always does and changing. And it's been a lot more people have been feeling unstable and a little bit afraid. And I looked around at all of this, right? There's a whole bunch of you somewhere else right now because I see empty chairs. We have exactly enough chairs right now. I see this, people willing to come and spend 4 days together talking about the spiritual angle of entrepreneurship, talking about start your business no matter what. And I think as much as we see the world falling apart, it's not really falling apart. And that's not me going into denial. Can terrible things happen from here? Absolutely, they can happen, right? Don't worry about keeping me in the live stream frame. If you want to see me all the time in a presentation, get your ticket next year in January. Live stream people. Okay, so who has something for sale here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, what are you selling?
Kratom tinctures.
Kratom tinctures.
Tax advice.
Tax advice. Asher. Plants. What do you sell?
Freeze-dried candy.
Freeze-dried candy. Who else had their hand up? They're selling something.
Hemp products.
Hemp products.
Visit Holograph Farm.
Visit your farm. Name of it's Hogeye. I know that. What do you sell?
My wife's pottery.
His wife's wonderful pottery. I was using one of those mugs this morning. Anybody else have something for sale?
Quail eggs.
Quail eggs here,
No.
but you
yeah.
can hook people up.
Yep.
Sue, do you have something for sale?
I don't.
You don't. What if somebody needs you to run a policy campaign?
Yeah, that's right.
As we've gotten into underground networking, and I've been thinking about how commerce fits into underground networking, I realized that we all have something to sell, but we're not necessarily selling it for money. But you have your secret sauce. We talked about that this morning. Find your secret sauce. That's what you're selling, and you may be selling it for social capital. That's what Sue's doing right now. She's here because of a relationship, not because I'm paying her a bunch of money to come talk, right? No, she's paying me money to come talk. How did I do that? Magic.
I love you, babe.
There's a lot of different ways that commerce works, and some of it involves US dollars or cryptocurrency. Some of it involves trading objects for objects. Some of it involves trading time for time. Some of it's relationship development, social capital. Some of it could be material capital that you have. But it's you know, and I'm talking to you from my libertarian market solve all problems standpoint here. It's commerce. Who said earlier, if you're just selfish, admit you're selfish and go on with life. But just doing commerce doesn't mean you're selfish. Exchanging benefit with each other does not mean you're selfish. But it is a great foundation to keep an underground network going. Sometimes that underground network is translating information. And when we go back into the topic of underground networks have always been there. You've been participating in an underground network your entire life. It isn't just the French resistance helping to beat the Nazis, right? That was done by an underground network, and they were willing to resort to violence. They were so violent with prisoners they caught that Germans were turning themselves to the Allied forces, turning themselves in to avoid what would happen to them if they got caught. by the French Resistance. So it can involve violence sometimes, but it doesn't have to. There are a lot of examples of great results that have happened from underground networks from a changing politics standpoint. And my favorite one that I like to talk about here, and those of you who've heard this before know this story, Prague Spring. The Prague Spring that happened. How did this happen? When I was in high school, the Berlin Wall came down. I had never lived in a world where there was not a physical wall dividing the city of Berlin into half. And on one half of that wall, you had brilliant, bold colors. You had art museums. You had beautiful buildings. You had all of this vibrant color. And if you went on the other side of that wall, all color was gone. We all get annoyed by advertisements, but if you go to a place where advertisements are really gone, it's a bleak, depressing place. Because advertisements are part of how we connect with commerce, right? In a very material sense. I see a picture of somebody with beautiful skin. I want to know how you get the beautiful skin. If you want to know how to get beautiful skin, like Sue's, talk to her about her skincare product line that she likes. Right? You see these billboards and they annoy you. But if you don't have them, what you have are people who are having to find information a different way. You have a lack of color. There's a lack of prosperity, which means lack of maintenance. If you went from one side to the other, West Berlin to East Berlin, when that wall was up, and even when that wall was down, because I did, you saw ash-stained, destroyed buildings and gray and brown. That's all you saw. I walked through the Brandenburg Gate, which is a beautiful landmark. If you know much about Germany, you'll know the pictures. Walked through the gate, went into East Germany after the wall came down, so you didn't have to go through checkpoint cards and all that mess. Had a meal, looked around at some things we wanted to see, walked back towards West Berlin, because it was still East and West at that point, and couldn't find the Brandenburg Gate. And there was this old couple, I have a picture of them, walking in dark overcoats, looking very, very nice. They were nicely dressed in wool overcoats. The man had a hat on, walking with his wife. And I said, "Where is the Brandenburg Gate?" He looked at me and said, "What? Where is the Brandenburg Gate?" And went, I was looking at the Brandenburg Gate from the other side, and I didn't recognize it because on the west side, it was all clean and a totally different color than the soot-encrusted gray Brandenburg Gate from East Berlin. So how did we get there? Was it Ronald Reagan and his famous speech from the wall? Tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev? I'm sure that had an impact. There was a point where they realized with all the people crossing borders, they were either going to have to do mass murder to stop this or let it come down. And that was pressure from the people. But you go back to Prague Spring, it started with a music festival. Under communism, the very songs you listened to were evaluated and censored by the government. The books you read, the books that were allowed to be published, were all censored and controlled by the government. Everything was controlled by the government. And they, for some stupid reason, let a music festival happen where people played whatever they wanted, and that gave people something very important. Community, relationships, and a little tiny bit of hope. And what happened after that was they started these hand-typed newsletters of poetry that could not be published. And the way this worked, typewriters, not everybody had one. You typed it up and handed it to some other centralized typewriter person who understand they were part of that, and they typed it word by word 10 copies and distributed those out, and they distributed out, and nobody knew who started it. So they couldn't control it. It's like decentralized newsletter. We have the internet helping us connect in decentralized ways, right? This is paper and typewriter. People get things done when they need to get things done. And that was an underground network that was starting to build. That was a faceless network. If you knew, you knew, but you didn't know everybody. You knew the person that you gave it to. And what started as art and poetry soon had an edition come. This is called Samizdat, by the way, behind the Iron Curtain. It soon became reports of what was happening with no opinion, just balanced reporting. What we all wish we had access to right now. I don't want the righty or the lefty spin. I just want to know some data so I can make some decisions if it impacts me, right? So they would report the Johnsons were taken from their house and nobody's by 10 policemen and nobody's seen them in 2 weeks. And that's how they started sharing information. And you couldn't stop Samizdat because you didn't know who was running which typewriter. And if one typewriter got caught, there were 100 other typewriters and 100 more from there. Well, an interesting thing happened. We got beyond the Iron Curtain with the newsletters. They got them over the border. So Samizdat is behind the border. Tamizdat is on the other side of the border. The Western world started seeing what was really happening. Because they managed to keep a lot of the abuses that were happening from the attention of the rest of the world. And that was bad PR. And people in power, when bad PR happens, you see what happens. It's not real good for them among the other leaders of the world. And there was great pressure from the West that started moving towards, hey, something's got to change here. We can't treat people like this. And next thing you know, the Berlin Wall's coming down. Now, is it because of Prague Spring? No, it's because of a lot of things. There were a lot of things that led up to that happening, but it changed the world completely in the late 80s. That was an underground network. Does it still exist? Is that still happening? Doesn't need to happen anymore. But think about the people who were willing to put themselves at a little bit of risk by having that typewriter and typing that letter. That's your underground network. Well, how do you go back then and start that? Do you start it?
Somebody has to take the step first.
Have you already taken the first step?
Yes.
The underground network has always been there. When you have a toothache on Christmas and there's a dentist that your mom knows that she can call and they open their dental office and like pack your impacted wisdom tooth removal that went horribly wrong, that's an underground network. That dentist isn't going to do that for anybody, but they'll do it for your mom because they know your mom. If you're in a church, you probably have people you can tap into that have skill sets that you don't even realize you do it, and you do it. When you come here and you're like, I need legal advice, who do you talk to? Those two. There's two. Last event, it was like all the doctors were here. Do you have any doctors here? Any medical doctors? Not this year. Not this year. Who knows? But that is all circling back to commerce. Commerce is mutual aid. Before this workshop, Sue asked me, hey, I got some of this extra spice rub that I know you like, because I talked about it on my podcast. Want me to send you some? I'm like, oh, we could totally use that on the venison roast on Saturday night. And she sent me this box. Did you send it for money? Why did you send it?
Because I know you like
Because she knows I like it and we're friends. But that's what did you get out of it? You got an emotional happy, right? That was what she got out of it. It is what it is. Now let's think about some other things. We've got an underground railroad going in this country right now. Did you know that? Not for slavery. It's not against slavery. It's to help people who are here and feel trapped by their culture, by the cities they're living in. Get out of the city and find a community in Mexico to live in. Derek Bros calls it the Underground Network. And he's taking people, he can speak Spanish, taking people who maybe don't speak Spanish, helping them with border crossing. And it's not illegal what he's doing. He's just providing them with an easy cross over the border, cross back if they want to come back, showing them some places where they might want to buy land or move to so they can get their foot wet. And he's really interested in attracting a community of freedom-minded people around him. And that's why he does that. And he's doing that in response to what's happening in our country right now. What is happening in our country right now? Just big picture.
Good thing.
Great things. Tell me about the good things.
Corporate control.
Well, our commander in chief is fixing all the problems.
We're fixing all the problems. How are we fixing the problems? We're making rules about the problems. And when we make rules about problems, they go away, right?
Make America great.
We like to make rules. It's the hardest thing for people to do when there's a problem is let it solve itself. We want to help. And the way that our society right now is doing this is tighter controls. And when there are tighter controls with your options, do you know what happens to underground networks? They grow. And when there are less rules, you know what happens to underground networks? You don't even know they're there. They're just there. They become more important as you have that top-down force from the government or from wherever, really. It becomes more important to have the real relationship, the in-person relationship. And that is, in essence, what the underground networking is. Now, why do we want to talk about that, though? Why are you sitting here interested in it? Do you need an underground network? All the time. Why?
Because it works.
This is the man who can fold a corner of a pond liner like nobody I've ever seen. And he can take all of us, and we call him the tarp Nazi because he can move this very fragile pond liner, which you do not want dragging on the ground because you know what happens to the hole in your pond liner? Bad things. And get it in place without putting a hole in it. That's why we call you the tarp Nazi. I've seen it. Very important. Anybody else? Why do you want an underground network? Why do you want a net? Freedom. How does it meet? Is that you? Why freedom?
Because it gives us a chance to do things that we want to do.
It gives you a chance to do things you want to do. Yeah.
Give and receive.
Yeah.
Always right when you've already when the pressure's on, you should already have the network in place.
Right. When the pressure's on, you should already have the network in place. In fundraising, somebody wrote a book called Dig the Well Before You're Thirsty. And that's all about have your relationships, because when you need to go ask for donations to a nonprofit organization, if I've just met you for the first time, I'm very skeptical about giving you money. If I've invited you to my kid's wedding, I'm more likely to give you a donation. Dig the well before you're thirsty. And this all sounds very selfish when I talk about it, doesn't it? Like we're all doing it for us. No. It's the way humans interact. We are herd animals. We need each other. We talk about independence and self-reliance. I don't see self-reliance as a viable thing without a very strong network, because different people are good at different things. And we all get weak at some time in one way or another. All of us are going to die at some point. Probably before we die, we're going to be really sick. What happens? They're human. Sometimes we're just emotionally down and we need to reach out to somebody for a minute and talk to them. Sometimes we just need to run another idea and get a different perspective. And sometimes we need to know the guy who we can talk to about, so how could I pay the government less taxes without also going to jail? Right? And now, what are we looking at? We are being told there will be food shortages. What does that really mean, though? Has anybody thought about what that really means? Has anybody dug into that at all? Besides me?
It means they're going to have problems shipping the food that does exist to places that need it.
Yeah. What does that mean for a U.S. citizen? Probably.
Higher prices.
Higher prices. Sue was just telling me groceries are up 40% in some cases. Yeah. if it happens to Americans that they are hungry, it will be the first time they've ever experienced actual hunger. That's true.
There's a good chance that most people in North America aren't going to die from food.
It's a very good chance we're not going to die from food shortages here. Who's most likely to die from the food shortages?
You know,
The people who you can't eat from the garbage can because there is no garbage that's edible left, right?
That's my group.
What are we most likely to see shortages of here? Meat, raw materials, imports,
Pet food.
Sanity from the normies.
sanity from the normies. Fair enough. Fair enough. Medicines that are not manufactured here. What's really at the foundation, and let's not go into New World Order here. What's really at the foundation? We're going to put the conspiracies over here. We can talk about those tonight around the campfire. There will be drinks. But what's causing it?
Too much centralization.
Too much centralization. The answer to a lot of our problems is decentralization can help. Centralization is great at some things. It is not good at stability. Because when something goes wrong and you're so dependent and so efficient, you have a problem. What else is at the foundation of it?
The need for control.
Maybe the need for control, but what's causing it really? What's making Sue's eggs go up 40%?
Government help?
That could be.
are you talking about inflation? Maybe that's going to cause it.
Inflation is definitely a symptom of what's going on. I don't know for 100% what the answer is. I was just wondering if somebody had a different insight than I have sometimes to keep asking that question. I do know that shipping has been jacked up for a couple of years, and I know it's more jacked up now. I know that China's response to coronavirus right now with shutdowns is making it worse, and we are dependent on China a lot. And I know that our fertilizer supplies have been impacted, and people are not doing what I do and using rabbit poop to fertilize. They're using imported fertilizers. And with all of that going on alone, just recovering from that, we're having trouble moving things. And so that's part of why I say, do we know if we'll be hungry here or not? It's not out of the realm of possibility. Like when I hear something like we're all going to die of starvation, I'm skeptical because I'm a skeptical person. And so then I go ask why, and I look at why, and and then I ask myself, is it within the realm of possibility? It's within the realm of possibility if things go horribly wrong. Like we have a really bad drought this summer in the bread belt. That grains equal meat in our country, not the meat I eat, but the meat that a lot of people depend on at the grocery store. No grains, no CAFO. That just, it won't work. Right.
Also, we're trying to change the amount of ethanol in gas.
They're allowing 15% though. They're not changing it.
Well, but I mean, that's gonna jump.
So
Huge thing.
if,
As far as grain.
so okay, so what, because we're streaming through, so what he's saying is going from 10% ethanol to 15%, which is basically corn, in the gasoline means they need more corn, and guess where the corn's not going at that point? To the feedlots. It's not the ears of corn in the store, right? It's the feed corn we're talking about here. And I saw the same information. As I was digging into that, I started looking at how much 15% is even capable of being produced, and I'm not sure. Them saying it's allowed in the summer, too, because it's already allowed in the winter. Them saying it's allowed in the summer just means that I think it was,
I have the numbers on it.
what is it, 5% of the gas stations even have the capacity to do it? Yeah. So I don't know how big of an effect that'll be, but it definitely caused panic. And it seems like, we've got the media trying to cause panic all the time. Why are they trying to cause panic? Because they
Increase
want
the
us
ratings.
isolated from each other.
It's about 20% of the points.
If the industry follows, they're trying to pit us against each other, right? And I don't even know if they're trying to do it with intention. I just know that that separation keeps us from doing what? getting on the underground network, underground railroad, even though Derek Rose is a vegan and I eat mostly meat. I mean, he's a vegan. I can't get along with him, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing. It's keeping us from having that relationship and developing the networks. And that's what's bad. The internet is a great connector, but it's a great divider. And when we let that happen to us, it's kind of a sad thing. So I'm going to go through one thing about underground networks before we go into the what we're going to do with it here. When I looked at how underground networks work, I thought of roles in the network. And I came up with 4. If you find a 5th one someday, like hit me up at the campfire again. The first is the trader. Who in this room is a trader? People who trade. I asked you who you were at the beginning. I did that so people would know you had stuff for sale, by the way. Just saying. A good way to develop trusting relationships is to have successful transactions that result in a positive outcome for both parties, and then suddenly you trust each other more. The traveler. The traveler may not be the trader. It may be somebody who's just a nomad and likes to go from place to place. These are the people who leave the secret notes under the log in the forest for the people hiding in the forest. Or these are the, who's farthest away here? I've got New York. Who else do I have? Anybody further away than New York? Canada. Oh, yeah. Alberta is far. It's far. Anybody else further than that? We get any international here. Do you know what's cool about travelers? Is they tell you what's really going on. So we hear about all of the crazy things going on in the city here. But when you go to the city, how crazy is it really? How crazy is it really? Who's from a city here? Okay, where are you from?
Dallas.
Dallas? How crazy is it there?
It's crazier. There were never homeless people walking around in the summer before, and now there's any block 5, 6 homeless people.
So they've got more homeless people in Dallas? Who else is from the city? Okay. What city? Philadelphia. How crazy is Philadelphia? What's really going on in Philadelphia?
For instance, it's one of the cities that went back to mask mandate.
Mask mandate?
When it was disappearing everywhere else, they went back.
Mm-hmm.
And people seem to have a really hard time letting go.
Yeah, the interesting thing that happened with the masks is the emotional attachment to the mask. It became this symbol, this great symbol. I'm a person who wears a mask on an airplane if I feel it cold coming on. So I've always had masks with me. And other people disagree with that choice. But I always thought, well, if I feel like I'm getting sick and I'm out in public, maybe I should keep that grossness on me. And now if I do that, people assume I'm some sort of crazy Karen mask lady. but it's right. Okay, what else? City? Which city?
Charlotte.
Charlotte. How crazy is Charlotte?
People are moving there like they're running from the plague, so it's gotten very crowded. Traffic it feels like Atlanta now.
You're kind of in the city. How is it really where you are, Sue?
We're weird people where we are. Washington, D.C., we're our own little.
Washington, D.C. is its own little beast, yeah.
It really is. I don't know. You know what? They're crazy because they're just, I feel like I'm living in a little play, where it's a lot of play acting.
A lot of play acting.
Yeah, but even more exaggerated than before.
Mm-hmm.
Like
So it's a little more exaggerated.
I mean, right. I mean, you have people that will walk up to a podium to do a press conference and then put the mask on as they're, getting up to the press conference.
I'm on camera again.
Exactly. And it's like, well, but we just watched you do that. So
I'm actually wearing this shirt. Come and take it. With intention. This is from the Special Operations Equipment Chicken, wearing a mask. It's all about the avian flu because the big fear among the homesteaders is they're going to gas our chickens. Has that happened to anybody yet? It actually might have happened to 1 or 2 homesteaders at this point who were too close to a factory farm and the avian flu got out and they knew they had poultry.
Didn't they call the health department?
If you call the health department and they find it, that's on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had 50,000 turkeys just killed in my county,
Yeah.
and I live a block.
Yeah. Did they kill yours?
I'm not allowed to have chickens where I'm at, so we
Oh.
just moved, don't have it, but my ultrasound tech last week was telling me that county health is coming up to every person that
Yeah.
has chickens to have in my
If they know about it.
and they're testing them. And I was like, whatever the test is, he's like, yeah, it's okay.
Okay. PCR. Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm wearing this because there are a lot of ways to avoid them coming to take it. And part of that is they don't know what they don't know. What do they need to know really? Right? What do they need to know really? The other thing is we hear the actual reports of crazy. If I'm wearing this shirt in Philadelphia, am I going to get beat up?
No, chances no.
Chances are no. Could it happen?
I mean, but
Could happen anywhere.
Okay, this is what he just said. Here's reality. Yes, but it could happen. It could happen because I had ratty bangs on the front of my head in the 80s. I got beat up for that. So yes, I could get beat up for the shirt. Is it more likely to happen right now in this environment anywhere from anybody who's somewhere? Do you think this is more likely to happen to me in a big way where you personally live? You think yes in DC right now. Everybody else is saying no, including Philadelphia. So I just need to stay out of DC. The only way I can get this real information, because what it sounds like on the news right now is if I go to Nashville, I'm going to get beat up. If I go to Knoxville, I'm going to get beat up. If I go anywhere where there is any population at all, for having my opinion, I'm going to get beat up, and that's not true. But they're not telling us that because it's not fun to tell us that. And the only way I can get the real information right now is from my underground network. The same thing was true during COVID, like the COVID lockdown 2020-21 stuff. The only way I was really getting decent information was by calling my friends who worked in the medical industry and saying, okay, so what's going on at the ER, right? Because they made it sound like the world was coming to an end, and there was an uptick of sick people for sure. Like it's not a thing. But then when I started talking to doctors who were treating it, I had many perspectives. You know, I had the hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin doctors, and I had the ones who were like 100% that's a hoax. I wanted to know all of that. That came from the underground network. So that's the traveler. That's why travelers are important. The partaker, my favorite one, the only thing I could think of was a martini. I like martinis. The partaker is the person who pulls from the underground network. Is that bad?
No.
How many of you are partakers? I am. That's how I get a lot of information, is I start calling people. I start asking people what's really going on. Because I can't tell. I can't verify. And if I can't verify, I make stupid decisions based on fear rather than real decisions made on rationality. Somebody who's really good at making decisions based on rational analysis, by the way, is John Pugliano. He, if you want to know what he thinks is really happening in the world, it's a good conversation to have because he keeps a very even analysis of things. The partaker is very important, and that person needs that person, and that person needs that person. That's how we all start talking. And then we have the evangelist. What does the evangelist do? Or the shaman? Spread the word. Who's an evangelist in here? Who else? And Amy Dingman's like, that was good. That was good. All of those roles are important, and they all work together. Can you be more than one?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you be all of them? Sue's probably all of them. She likes to travel. You're always going somewhere. That 2020 had to be hard for you in that regard. I haven't left my city in a month. Yeah. Did you ever just jump in your car and go?
I ended up just having a lot of conversations with, baristas and grocery store checkout people.
Hi, I'm Sue. How's it going? Yeah.
That's exactly what it comes to.
I'm glad you can travel again.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing about underground networks, though, is when you find your secret sauce. And Sue, actually, it's funny that Sue touched on this too. What is your self-worth right now? Are you a valuable person? I know you're a value. Everybody here is a valuable person. But I know a lot of you don't think you are. You don't think you are because we've been conditioned to be gracious, to undersell our impact. Be like, yeah, it wasn't really me. Sue doesn't do that. She's like, yeah, I totally won that campaign. We're supposed to be humble. It's not bad to be humble. But if you're feeling like you're not good enough, you're not good enough to be the traveler, you're not good enough to make awesome pottery. Would your wife make the pottery she makes now if 2 years ago she had let whatever happened to her pottery get her down? Yeah. Your self-worth is the thing that you need to work on most if you have that feeling or if you're having that dialogue with yourself. Because when you realize your secret sauce and when you realize what you can bring to the table, you will bring it. You will bring it 10 times. You will bring it 100 times. But if you don't think you're worth a darn, then you're not going to bring it. What happens if you don't bring it to our network, guys? Our network is as strong as the weakest person in our network. We are as strong as the weakest person. That means when I hear somebody saying, yeah, but blah, 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 I'm not good enough to try that, I'm like, no. You got to try that now. You got to knock that out of the park. You know why? Because if you're not strong, we're not strong. And that's why I'm here. That's why I want to see us get more connected with each other to help each other out. So when you have that moment of self-doubt, when you have that moment of I'm not worth it, you jump out. Somebody else says, Crystal, get off your butt and go plant those flowers because she's giving you the best flower seeds, by the way. 3 years. Flower farmer. Get out there and run your flower business, man. You can do it. Right? We can say that to each other. It's not just me saying it to you on my podcast. It's you saying it to each other so that we're all strong, so that when we need to be strong, we can be strong. And competition, by the way, is good. I was in competition with this woman for 5 years.
You like just tell that story that way.
What I mean by competition is not what people think of. Though. It's not put Fred's butchery out of business with my butchery. It's, hey, can I do that a little better than you? Hey, can I do that a little better? I'll tell you how I did it. It's like a friendly camaraderie, challenging of each other style of competition. I think competition is great. How many people are selling soap here? One. Damn it. Is anybody else selling something that somebody's selling here? Coffee. Who has a coffee?
Oh, we do
Your
that.
coffee's in competition with me.
I know, we're not.
Dang
friends
it, like,
anymore.
dead to me. Dead to me. Right? No. Having that camaraderie and that friendly competition makes it better. It makes it challenging. Sue challenges me all the time. She challenged me to take a long bath 2 days ago, which was totally the right call. Yeah. That was my favorite meme you've made all week. I put a picture, I don't know if you saw this, but I put a picture of our to-do list with an entire whiteboard full of setup things that people could check off. I'm like, we're almost ready. And Sue takes her camera, or takes her phone, or combo probably, drew a rainbow with clouds on both sides, and said, take a long bath. I was like, she's not wrong, because if I don't do that, when we get here, I won't be awake for the whole event, and you'll be like, what? We wanted to see Nicole stop. We saw Nicole sleep. Okay, competition is good if it's the right kind of competition. If it's sort of the friendly, we're goading each other all to be better. I don't like the kind of competition where you undermine people on purpose or set them up for failure. I will never support that. When I see people doing that, they're dead to me. They're dead to me. It's just done. That's not a 3 chances thing. That's like a 1 chance thing for me. Because when you set people up for failure on purpose, there was no reason to do that, right? And then there's the talking versus results thing. At this event, we're going to be talking. We probably talked about it on Spicy Sisters like a week ago. There's going to be a lot about talking about what you're going to do differently, right? And as you connect with each other, you'll find those relationships. You'll find the underground network. You'll find those connections that can help all of each other. And you're going to say, when I leave here, I'm putting in an aquaponic system. When I leave here, I'm going to start a soap making business. When I leave here, I'm going to get my content business up off the ground. I'm going to make a video every day, even though I know you love being on video, right? That has got big eyes from Crystal. You'll find your secret sauce. You know what it is already. She takes pretty badass pictures. And then you're going to go home. And then you're going to talk about it some more. And you're going to be like, hey, should I talk to Matt about how to structure my business? Should I talk to Glenn about getting some intellectual property protections in place? The trademark I still haven't done. Should I talk to Tim about how to get a handyman business started? Talking about the things is not bad, but doing the things is better. Because your success is measured how? Is it measured by how well you talk about it? Sometimes, but not usually. Sometimes. Huh? On Instagram it is. Yeah, right. That's why I said sometimes, but not usually. It's measured by the results you get. When Sue put the picture of all the trophies on the wall, it wasn't like, hey, I got trophies, look at me, I'm awesome, although it was, because she is. But it was also like, these are measurable achievements in my career. I got results. I got results because I worked hard. I got results because I was willing to tap into my secret sauce and figure it out. I was willing to try things and fail. I was willing to get fired. We all fail. I've failed probably 6 businesses before I had successful ones. I'm still alive after all that. Do you know you can go out and start a business, completely fail, lose most of your money, go work at a job to make money back, to be able to start the next thing, and you don't die. You don't die. Do you know you can make handmade soap and start selling it, Andy? And people start liking your soap? And if you love that, you can sell more and more soap. Or you could make soap and people could be like, I don't like how tea tree smells. Screw you. And it fails. Are you going to die if that happens?
I'll make the month too.
He's not going to die. A lot of us are afraid to start because we're afraid we're going to fail. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to fail. Do it quick, get it over. You might fail, learn something, and do it better another time. You might fail, realize you love something else. You might be wildly successful. I did this. Wildly successful and be like, I hate my life right now. I hate everything I do, everything I've done. I hate it. Therefore, I shall do something else. You might have that happen too. It's okay. What you need to do, though, is get real with yourself. Because the only person whose opinion matters about you is who? Is it mine? Is it Tim's? It's your opinion of yourself that matters. It's your evaluation of did you get results. That's the only one that matters. Your spouse's doesn't even matter. Sorry, Becky. Your spouse's opinion doesn't matter. Your underground network's opinion of you does not matter. When you get real with yourself and you evaluate yourself, that's what starts moving you towards success. It's all on you. That is what freedom is, right? To Tim's point, Sue also covered it. It's all on you. And that's scary as hell, isn't it? Sometimes. Embrace your fear for 5 minutes. Courage is my word this year, so I had to bring it up. I had to bring up fear, the opposite of courage. Embrace the fear for 5 minutes. Look it in the eye. Slap it in the face and walk out of the room and go do what you got to do. Because I know that the emotions are worth something and you need to honor those. But if what you need is to learn how to address the fear and move beyond it, get your psychologist involved. I did. For 1.5 years, I went to somebody. I let go of fear a lot faster now. I let go of all the self-doubt words in my head. Those are all gone now. But who had to change that? not my underground network. And then when I come to the network, guess what I am? I'm an asset to you all instead of on the other side of that column. We don't want to be on the other side of that column, right? So underground networks are important. That's why we are here to connect with each other. But to do that, we need to find our secret sauce. We need to address those things we're saying to ourselves in our heads that everybody says, right? We all, Sue's like, yeah, I've done it. It's not unusual that everybody will have that first moment of I can't, the I can'ting, that we let that go and we I can ourselves forward, because that's what's going to happen. If there are food shortage, if there are real food shortages here, guess who has food? I have food. Who else has food here? You've got food? Look at all these people who raise food. Guess where you might have to get your food if it's scarce at the store. If it's not just that the prices went up 40% and Sue needs to make more money to buy her eggs. You're going to get it from us. And what are we? We're more likely to sell to you because we know you. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I want you to leave here, this room, going into tonight. We're going to do something really important. Tell your story in 3 minutes. Who's done this before? Yeah? How does it work, Matthew?
You just get up and you talk about very briefly who you are, why you're here, and most people say what they have to give to the community.
You get up, you tell us something about yourself you want to share. You ask us for something if you want to meet somebody who has a certain characteristic or something. And then you leave. Now, if you are afraid of public speaking, who's afraid of public speaking and has done it? So, has done it once.
Oh, I am.
So you did, okay. So I know Eric has actually done a tell your story in 5 minutes and is afraid of public speaking. What was that? Tell us what that was like for the people who are here who haven't done it yet, who are maybe thinking, there's no way in hell I'm going to get up in front of these people and tell my story in 3 minutes. Eric.
I'd love to use a cliche and say the naked thing works.
The naked thing doesn't work, it turns out.
You know, Jack Spirko and it helps to just think of everybody there, or at least start to talk to people beforehand, so you tend to be friends. You know,
yeah.
If you're bullshitting your friends bar, here's my thing. What I do.
I will not make anybody get up and speak publicly who's afraid to. It's not my game. I will try to make a safe environment for those of you who are like, that sounds terrifying. Because I think it's right after dinner, but maybe it's before dinner. We're going to tell our stories in 3 minutes. You can tell your story in 30 seconds if you want to. I actually encourage that. But you have up to 3 minutes, and the hook comes out at 3 minutes. And in this way, some of you are faceless to each other right now in this room. You haven't had a chance to talk or to meet. In this way, you'll start having a face and a story with that face. And how do we remember things best? With the story. And that's how we start connecting even tighter and getting to know each other. And it is kind of like standing up in front of your family, really, and telling your story for a second and asking for what you want more information on, or saying what you can offer. Maybe you have a completely awesome insight on how to successfully raise quail. Maybe somebody else here is wanting to start quail. That connection happens because we share. And so if you're willing to share, I want to invite you to please tell your story tonight, even if you're scared of being in front of people. And if you need a little more coaching than that, come see me before I tell your story in 3 minutes. I'll give you a couple other tricks I have to make it a little more comfortable if you're uncomfortable. Any questions about underground networking or anything else I talked about? Yeah.
Secret scroll story.
Nope. That's Jack Spirko's. We need our own secret squirrel story here. So secret squirrel is a special symbol for that network.
Okay.
You have to be in person at one of his workshops to know it. And I know everybody saw that live stream and they're like, dang it, they muted the secret squirrel story. We actually have Nate here. So, could you turn the live stream off? Bye guys, thanks for joining us. Yeah, this doesn't leave the room.
We're off.
Yeah. Who knows who Nate is? Dawn knows. Angel